and then maybe they miss an opportunity to try something different that would have been successful for them at the individual level.
Definitely, definitely. So could you just take us through maybe a typical day of eating? Say a typical training day. Maybe you're doing one run, maybe you're doing two. Can you just take us through a typical day of what you might eat pre-run, mid-run, post-run? Just a kind of a decent, nice example of that.
Sure. Yeah, I actually have two sample days here. So
Perfect.
one is one where I'm having a little more carbohydrate than I normally would, and one is where I'm kind of keeping it a little bit lower. So for the first one is the little bit on the lower end. So I'll wake up. I'll usually have like a cup of coffee with a couple scoops of S Fuels Life Powder. It's basically like a fat-based product that you pour into like your coffee at like a creamer would be, and then an S Fuels Life Bar, which is just like a protein bar. I'll usually do the majority of my workout or the bigger workout of the day in the morning. So I'll head out for that. When I get back from that, I'll have like 8 eggs, 2 ounces of olive oil, 2 ounces of sharp cheddar cheese, and some sea salt as kind of the post-run meal. This would be in the context of more than one workout for the day. So then in the afternoon, I'm probably going to head out for like an easier run and maybe some strength work. So if the time window between those two sessions is long enough, I'll oftentimes have something like an apple, a cup of yogurt, a scoop of S Fuels Revival, which is like a protein powder. Then I'll do that second easy run strength session, and then I'll be getting close to kind of dinner time. And at dinner, I'll have about a pound of ground beef, 4 ounces of sharp cheddar cheese, 2 cups of broccoli, and one medium potato that I'll boil in like bone broth. 6 tablespoons of sour cream and sea salt, and kind of like a dish that I'll like basically just mix and mash that all together. Throughout the course of that day too, I'll be drinking water and usually adding about 2 packs of Element to that water, especially this time of year when it's getting hot out. And I'll have like a capsule of a Bioptimizer's Magnesium Breakthrough. It's just like a magnesium supplement. Not every day, but I'll have it probably 3 or 4 days during the week. So on a day like that, I'd maybe throw that in there too. The second day, which is one where I'm bringing back a little more carbohydrate. So this might be around the time where I'm doing some tempo runs, long intervals or something like that, or even some of the short interval stuff. Wake up, have that cup of coffee. I'll still have the S Fuels Life, couple scoops of that in there. I'll add like 2 tablespoons of honey. And then during that morning run, if it's a workout, I'll maybe have 1 packet of the S Fuels Race Plus, which is that 15 to 16 gram of carbohydrate powder with a small amount of fat and protein in it. After that run, maybe have 3 cups of like melon, 1 cup of strawberries, 1 cup of yogurt, a tablespoon of honey, and 4 eggs with sea salt. That afternoon between my next session, I'll have like a cup of whole milk with 1 scoop of S Fuels Revival protein powder. Then after that run slash strength session for dinner, maybe 12 ounces of top round steak that I'll usually put a bunch of that in a slow cooker and take chunks of that off of that for the week. So it's usually about a 12-ounce serving of that for dinner. 1 to 2 baked potatoes. Let's see, gotta scroll down here. 2 cups of broccoli boiled in bone broth, sea salt, and 4 tablespoons of almond butter. So that would be kind of like a little more carbohydrate. So if I'm doing, blocked workouts, short intervals, long intervals, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's generally, whole foods, obviously focused diet, but you're not really eating, anything too complex. Like it's a fairly, a diet that most people could really eat. The high carbohydrate day. Now, what kind of like maybe percentage you kind of mentioned before? So that's maybe more up to 20 to 30% carbohydrate, maybe. And then the
Yeah.
lower carbohydrate day would be like around 5 to 10%, something like that.
Yeah, that's usually about where it falls. And I'd have to run the numbers on those two sample
Sure.
days. But it usually what'll happen too is if I have a day where I'm up to like 20, 30% carbohydrate, I'll have a day after that where it's easy recovery. And then I might even go lower carb than I did on that first sample day. Cause there are some days where, I don't typically do like a strict carnivore diet or a zero carb diet, but there'll be days here and there where I'll do that. And then it's like, I'm basically absent of carbohydrate on some of those days. So once you start kind of adding those all up, I really should get like a list of like 7 sample days that outlines like every single one of them, and then we could
Hmm.
really cut into like the exact averages and stuff like that. But I'm always kind of semi battling this desire to be more intuitive with it, with enough knowledge to know like I'm not drastically off enough where I'm like in a completely different diet realm than I think I am, versus like spending the time and energy to like meticulously track every last gram. So what I find, I get asked about it enough though, where it does make sense to,
Mhm.
write it down and count it up every once in a while just to make sure that I'm giving accurate information and that sort of thing. So usually that's what I'll do is if I'm in a certain phase of training, I'll pick a couple days and I'll track it and then I'll run the numbers and say, okay, yeah, I'm in the ballpark of what I would be typically doing here. And then I'll do that for different phases of the year, different phases of the training plan.
And after you do that for a while, you just kind of
Mhm.
know, oh, this is how much energy. I mean, people will ask me, sometimes like, oh, how much protein or how many calories you eat per day? I'm like, I honestly don't know, but I know that it's like enough because I've been eating like this for,
Yeah.
15 years. And
Yeah.
at one point I did track it and now I don't need to because I've
Right.
done the back work. And if you eat generally the same thing day to day, not that every day is the same, but most days it's like, oh, we're eating the same types of foods. And so you kind of know what's in there. And it's just like,
Mhm.
just meet my energy needs, eat the same general things, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And you kind of know you're covering all your nutritional bases.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you pick the foods you like within like the macronutrient ratios that you know are going to work well for you. And then, for me, I tend to just, I prefer, at least when I'm at home, just to kind of like rinse and repeat for the most part. And if I get
Mhm.
sick of something, I'll sub it in for something else until I get sick of that. And so like, I've been on an egg kick recently. So, it's not uncommon that I'll have, 8+ eggs in a sitting or something like that.
Yeah, you and me both. That's everybody on Twitter loves eggs, but I'm a 6 to 8 egg per day
Yeah.
kind of guy too. So
Uh-huh.
they're perfect fuel and they don't
They
sit
are.
heavy in your stomach, so you can have them before a run or something like that. And I typically
Mhm.
find that those are, just fine for digestion and things like that.
No doubt.